Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am again joined by Mr. Jim Brecker. First of all, how are you doing, Jim?
I'm doing fine, Armando. Happy to be here.
Long time no see. Been a few,
Yes,
been a few hours.
it
Ladies
has
and
been.
gentlemen, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be having an album discussion, but I'm going to set this up for you a little bit. The artist that we're going to be talking about today has had a very interesting recording history. She's an artist that has had many labels put to her: art rock, art pop, post progressive. She is a singer, she's a performer, she's a um, musician, producer. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the incomparable Kate Bush. Okay. And the album that we're going to be discussing today is this album right here, Hounds of Love. This is
Big
the,
dog.
yes, too big. I did not realize these were dogs on the cover until I saw it up close. I actually thought that she had a fur wrapped around behind her. I really did. I really did. Ladies and gentlemen, we have here the 2018 remastered edition released through Fish People Music and also EMI. A fantastic album. We are going to dive into the album, but we're also going to discuss a little bit about Kate Bush as an artist overall, because I believe she's a bit of an enigma in terms of her uh, public image. She's garnered it very closely over the years. She's only
Yes,
done one major tour of the UK in 1979, and that one tour colored her view on touring. Actually, she has not wanted to do major world tours. She has had an eclectic body of work. And this, for me, is pretty much virgin territory in terms of discussing her work at length. So, um, just to, get things on a roll, I will pass the virtual mic over to Jim, and he will discuss with us his views on Kate Bush and his history of listening to her music
yeah,
and how he got into Kate Bush. So, over to
yeah.
you, Jim.
Thank you. So first, a little background on Kate herself. Catherine Bush was born in July of 1958. She began writing her own songs at 11, as some, precocious people do. She got signed to EMI after some involvement with David Gilmour. I assume it's just musical involvement to just help craft some demos for her. And in 1978, at the ripe old age of 19, she topped the UK singles charts for 4 weeks with her the debut single of hers, which is Wuthering Heights. And she became the first female artist to achieve a UK #1 with a solely self-written song. So when Kate Bush appeared on the public scene, she made an enormous splash, at least on that side of the pond. Looked like you were going to interject something there, Armando.
No, no, no. I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
Ah, okay.
So I'm just, yes. Okay.
Um, so after so after the single, her debut album called "The Kick Inside" came out that same year in 1978, and then there were three other albums released since then, or after that, I should say: Lionheart, Never Forever, and The Dreaming. The Dreaming was a totally self-produced effort on her part, and but it was done within the normal studio environs in the UK. And the album cost a lot of money to produce, and did not yield the I'll say the proper amount of hit singles that EMI wanted it to, and for their balance sheet to work. So that led Kate down a mission to not get into that sort of rigmarole again. She decided to build her own studio at her house, and then she could take her own darn time working on her follow-up album to The Dreaming, and that would be the album that we're discussing today, Hounds of Love, um, which was her fifth. Now, I got into Kate, or I should say, I was introduced to Kate Bush with The Dreaming. And frankly, I didn't know what to make of it. This was in 1982, and I was listening to pretty much standard US rock and pop music at that time. Maybe things that had like a bit of a progressive edge, but certainly not as out there as what Kate Bush was doing. The opening track of The Dreaming is kind of a beautiful template for how wild and creative she is. The you know this incredible drumming that propels the whole track forward. These really close mic whispers that she does, which then leads into these um, almost like shrieks in the
Yes.
chorus.
Yes.
Uh, then these ooh, 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 vocals that kind
Yeah.
of come in that sort of kind of
It,
drive this pseudo jungle feel to the tune.
it's very tribal, very percussive. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
yeah. And then it just gets weirder all the way to the end with like these real urgent, male vocal lines in the background, kind of taking you all the way through these, staccato ending. Da, 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 da. It's just
yeah.
really, really jarring.
Yeah.
And the rest of the album kind of follows suit in terms of, I wouldn't have expected to hear that.
Hmm.
Again, Kate doing these really wild vocal screams, followed by like some real, again, close mic'd whispered David Gilmour harmony vocals on Pull Out the Pin. Um, and it's just a whole jarring experience. Yeah, I mean, Kate, Wuthering Heights was definitely a signpost of things to come, of a woman who's incredibly literate, incredibly creative, and really was kind of boundless in her interest in the arts and how to incorporate that stuff together. I mean, you mentioned her 1979 tour of the UK, the Tour of Life, incredibly creative and inventive for the time, involving not only music but dance and uh, I'm sorry to do more proper research on this, but I think that there were
You're doing
other,
fine.
theatrical elements involved. I just feel like I'm painting an incomplete picture.
You're
Um,
not. You're not. Believe me, you're not.
okay, it was pretty radical at the time. There wasn't much like that going on, and she truly astounded audiences there, and it was more the shame, for the audience world that she wouldn't do full live shows again until 2014. So 79 to 2014, that's quite a chunky year. So we'll talk about what led to those
Yeah.
2014 shows when we
Hmm.
get there.
Hmm.
So yeah, when I first heard Kate through the, you know, hey, let's listen to this stuff session with a friend of mine, it it was just completely outside of my wheelhouse. I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I can tell you my experience with Kate Bush. The the program I've mentioned, the music journalism program I've mentioned before, called the New Music, um, would feature Kate Bush
Hmm.
quite often when she would come out with a new album. And I remember seeing the video for The Dreaming and Babushka, and it was just like, what is this? I mean, she's doing this interpretive dance. She's got, the bright, like the doe eyes coming at you, with the flawless makeup. I mean, like shalaka laka pow. Everything was just put on immaculate on her. And she'd be doing this interpretive dance in these videos, and it was like, what am I watching? And then you hear the
Right.
vocals where, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, she had a vocal range. She would go into this high register,
Yeah.
and then she would go into this shrieking register in some spots. And it was like,
Right.
what the hell am I watching? Like, this is just unreal. Like,
Hmm.
literally unreal. So,
But it
yeah,
wasn't just all nails on a chalkboard
no,
either,
no, no,
because a lot of those
no.
earlier songs that people probably became more familiar with from the whole story release,
Yeah,
songs like Wow, Man with a Child in His Eyes,
yes,
some just unbelievable, sensitive, stirring vocals.
yes. Yes, no, definitely, definitely. And melodic as all get out. I mean, it was just unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with the release of Hounds of Love, I I don't remember that. Maybe you can shed some light on this. I don't remember there being a lot of press before this album came out.
I don't think I was aware of it before it came out, but once it dropped, holy crap.
It was
People
like a
started talking
thunder.
about it immediately.
It was a thunderclap. It was just like boom, there she is. So I didn't mean to interrupt your flow. You were doing really good.
No problem. No, you didn't interrupt the flow. So, so about Hounds of Love, it started to be created back in 1983. She built most of the basic tracks for it in her home studio. Kate was saying that most of the songs were written on the Fairlight and synth, and not
Yes.
piano, which was moving away from the earlier albums. Um, so she kind of had a whole new way of approaching writing, and I would believe it really, um, kind of helped carve the road that this album would go down.
Hmm.
Um, it was released in September of 1985,
Yes, September
and
16th. Yes.
yeah, and I should have looked at what was contemporary on the charts at that time, but just coming to mind, what was coming out at that time was that, you had, you know, at least in America, Born in the USA was still riding the charts. You had Madonna's Like a Virgin was there. Sting was doing his tour and release around his first solo album, Dream of the Blue Turtles. And
Hmm.
I think somewhere in there, yeah, Prince had dropped Around the World in a Day. So um, I think REM's Fables, the Reconstruction might have been around this time too. But that's just sort of a, you know,
And songs
small
from the big
sampling of
chair.
what was going on. And songs from the Big Chair, of course, which was,
Yeah.
that was released back in February, but that was still on its rocket ascension,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
because that was so dang good.
Yeah.
So when Hounds of Love was released, it was like immediately hailed as this is the most amazing thing this year, if not this decade.
Yeah.
Um, it hit the UK album chart. It topped at number one. In US, it only topped at number 40. Um, then it kind of re-entered various album charts in 2022 when the song "Running Up That Hill" was featured on the Stranger Things series from Netflix.
Yeah.
Um, this album, in 2020, Rolling Stone ranked Hounds of Love at number 68 of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Uh, Pitchfork included the album as number 4 on their list of 200 best albums of the 80s. It's one of the few albums on Pitchfork that has a perfect 10 out of 10 score. Um, National Public Radio in the US, there was a poll that was conducted by them, and they were talking about greatest albums by female artists, and Hounds of Love was number 4. Um, so that just kind of gives you an idea of the weight and endurance that this album has had, and just how big of a milestone it was in music at that time. I'll go out on a limb and say, okay, what Carole King's Tapestry was in 1971 to a certain era of female artists, Kate Bush and Hounds of Love was had the same impact,
Yeah,
just 14 years later.
I would agree. I would agree.
So
Uh,
the album is divided into two parts, for those that haven't heard it. The side one is kind of the more poppy side, if you will, and it has a a sweet label affixed to it, um, entitled Hounds of Love. Side two, which is a more proper suite, is has the title of the Ninth Wave, and of the seven songs that make that up, they all have their individual titles, and they're all very memorable. But most
mhm.
people just refer to side two as one thing, like as if it were a single track, calling it the Ninth Wave.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, to me, as great as side one is, it's the ninth wave that truly makes people sit up and notice. As I mentioned on the show, I have a younger son who's big into music too, and um, we were taking some long drive somewhere, and I said, "Well, you've got to hear, Pounds of Love. This is amazing." He's like, "I don't know if I like female artists so much," and he's but we
Yeah.
played it, and he liked what he heard, for what would be side one. But then once the ninth wave started, he was just like transfixed. That's It's almost like he couldn't believe what he was hearing,
Mhm.
because this goes well. First of all, the whole piece is about the conceit of someone drowning out at sea, and what this person is going through the physical, mental, and emotional throes of possibly losing their life you know out in the open sea. And
Yes.
the piece goes from the incredibly intimate to the outrageously cosmic, with fever dreams erupting all in between. And because you can, let's put an Irish jig in the middle of it as well.
Of course.
I
Why
mean,
not?
it's we'll kind of break down, track by track going through it, but that just kind of gives you the sense of what the ninth wave is all about. Um, you know, the a gentleman named Ron Moy, um, who was saying that the disparate musical elements of the ninth wave, can be described as classically prog, because of the evident experimentation. Hello, Kate. Um, and
Showing people
uh,
what the packaging is like. Keep going.
yep. And basically because Bush was like wholly embracing European music traditions with like no trace at all of just standard American rock and roll stuff. Um, this is a very European album in terms of the way that the music is delivered, and the lyrical and literary themes that drive the whole album
Mhm.
forward. Um, Pitchfork also goes on to say that Hounds of Love is neither synth pop nor prog rock, but it draws from both heavily. Um, so
I did want to interject something.
yeah,
Just a question, if I may, my good sir.
please.
You're doing wonderfully, by the way.
Well,
Um,
I've been talking for like almost 59 years, so
but that's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm almost 54 years for me. Uh, this album, Hounds of Love, has been described as post-progressive.
mhm.
Do you agree with that? Having heard it and listening to the textures and the production and the music and the richness that is on this album and all the layers, do you agree with that label, as it were, for this release?
I don't know about post progressive. In doing my research, I may have stumbled across the same quote that you're looking at, and just kind of hearing that described as post-progressive.
Mhm.
The particular quote that I see says that it's been described as post-progressive because, quote, Bush voices themes of love and womanly passion rather
Yes,
than the usual male viewpoints associated with prog rock and,
yes.
war and fantasy and,
Knights of the Round
stuff.
Table and all that kind of, yeah, magicians
Yes,
and
and mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. What the
yeah,
heck does that mean? I don't
yeah,
know, but it sounds great.
yeah. All that, and Puff the Magic Dragon thrown in for good measure, kind of a thing, in terms of the male point of view. No, I get it. I get, yeah. That's the quote I
Yeah.
was referring to, that piece there. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, any prog rock fan could sink their teeth into this and recognize its proggishness from its incredible variety, the creativity, uh, the depth and fluidity, the mastery, and just the performances there.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean it's closer to prog than it is, any other genre of rock and roll that I can think of. This may be one of those things that knocked down the door into art rock. So hard to say.
yeah, yeah. And I didn't mean to disturb you or again interrupt you. I wanted to get your take on that label of being that comment of being labeled post-progressive, and whether or
Yeah.
not that does fit or not for you. Let's get into the because we talked about the first side, and ladies and
Hmm.
gentlemen, I'll just interject here. On the first side alone, you have it starts off with running up that hill, the first single, Hounds of Love, next single, and um, the Big Sky, which are also singles, and oh God. Oh my God. Mother stands for comfort, which upon reading more about it, it's quite a disturbing piece of music and the
Yeah.
context and the text of it. And it ends with the fantastic cloud busting. So on the
Yeah.
first side, you have one, two, three, you have four singles alone,
Yep. Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Mother Stands for Comfort was the only one not released as a single.
yeah, yeah. And that was disturbing for me. That one that the meaning behind it, like the origin of it. It was about a mother uh whose son's basically a murderer, right? And it's like, my God, I mean, she does not hold back on the
No,
subject matter when she wants to tackle it. So
Kate deals with some heavy themes, and some of those heavy themes just have to deal with um, being a woman.
yeah,
There's a lot of, US male driven stuff out there that, could be called cock rock. And definitely Kate kind of swings it the other way. I don't know what handy label you would throw to it, but dealing with woman's issues from an emotional and a physical and relationship standpoint. And that stuff is strewn throughout all her music. And certainly running up that hill is, kind of exhibit A of that whole thing. Because the whole song is about, you know, making a deal with God, which was the the sole title that Kate wanted to have for that song, but the record label said no, you're going to offend too many religious countries. So
yeah,
for her, the song is still called A Deal with God, but it's basically about, trying to make a deal with God to swap places with the man in her life so the man can understand the woman's point of view on things. That's why she wants to make that deal so
yeah.
that the man will have some greater sensitivity and understanding.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. This is not your standard pop fare.
No, this ain't Like a Virgin. And that's probably why
And the
Hounds of Love knocked Like a Virgin out of the number one slot on the UK chart.
thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, yeah. Um, yeah, no,
Kate
this was
will give you the OBE award just for that.
there you go. There you go. And then yeah, and then Hounds of Love, the title track. I mean, to me, just I'm gonna interject something and then I'll shut up. Um,
don't. It's your channel. Let's discuss
Yeah.
the album that we've both
But
heard. So,
again, to me, every song is a different, as I call them, a different avenue.
mhm.
Even though there's this threat. Okay, there's the obvious, you know, uh, the obvious concept piece on side two. There, there is a loose thread on side one, but every song is different. Every song is his own entity, and its own, I
Yeah.
guess, lack of a better definition, his own beast. Um, yeah, Hounds of Love. I mean, again, this I'm still absorbing the album as we're talking.
Hmm.
I'm loving what I'm hearing. I
Yeah.
really and truly am. And yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, there wasn't much else. I don't think there was anything else like Kate Bush at the time when this album, dropped. I mean, the closest things you could probably say were, like, oh, maybe a little bit of Laurie Anderson or maybe a little bit of Jane Sivery.
I
But
was gonna s- I was gonna say
that's about
Laurie
where it ends.
Anderson. I was gonna say Laurie Anderson. Who by the way is coming out with a new album, guys, Laurie Anderson. Amelia. Get it. Through None Such Records. I ordered it. 22 tracks. Just a little side note.
Okay.
Um, yeah, no, to me, like, okay, let's put this back in context for a minute. Let's take a couple of steps back.
Okay.
Kate, Kate Bush gets discovered by a family friend, uh, gets through a family friend, gets discovered by David Gilmour, who was looking for new talent to develop. She was signed to a development deal with EMI. They were gonna,
Hmm.
bring her up and hone her and help her to hone her craft. And number one, stuff like that does not happen today. Okay.
Right.
You are not given the opportunity to develop your artistry and develop your own uh, signature voice as an artist. You are basically told today, this is your producer, this is your songwriter. Go in there and just do what they say and be a good little girl and
Yeah.
not shake the boat or sink the ship. Um, Kate Bush to me, and then I will shut up. Kate Bush to me from the onset, right from the get-go, was just fully, I mean, obviously she would disagree, but to me, she was pretty much fully developed from the kick inside, basically. I mean, she was completely unique as to what was going
Hmm.
on at the time.
Right.
And she won the argument with EMI as to releasing Wuthering Heights as a single. They didn't want Wuthering Heights. I forget the song they wanted. But she stuck to her guns and said, "No, we're going to release this first. This is a better
Hmm.
this is a better single with what I want to say. This is unique." What 19-year-old has that kind of power?
Right. Yeah. That kind of power, that kind of belief in
Conviction.
herself. Yeah. Conviction. Perfect.
You know what I mean? So to me, she was already developed from the onset, like right from the get-go, you know.
Yeah. The raw materials were there and they just got, strong, it's like her power increased, the more,
Yeah,
the more she worked.
yeah, yeah. So, but we must carry on back to Hounds of Love, ladies and gentlemen. Um,
Yeah, so yeah, like you were saying, the side one is kind of the hit singles portion of the album, which are just more, conventional song structures in terms of, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Cloud Busting, as you pointed out, was um, I think it's more impactful than Hounds of Love. I'm sorry, Running Up That Hill. Running Up That Hill is probably catchier because of the the Lynn
yeah,
drum
yeah.
programming
The
that's behind it.
the underlying percussive elements. I mean,
Right.
you had the main drum rhythm, but you also had that underlying tom percussion hit that was going, like rhythm that was going on.
Right. And
Yeah,
plus the whole lyric is just really, beguiling. Once you start talking about deals with God, it's like, okay, that gets my attention. That's not on radio.
yeah. Talking to a
Um,
talking to a
but
Roman Catholic. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, I get it.
cloud busting though has its own sort of universe and story to it. It's based on sorry, I need to consult my notes here. It
Consult
is
away.
based on a memoir by a gentleman named Peter Reich, Reich. His memoir is called A Book of Dreams, and the song is about the close relationship between um, the author. Um, Sorry, it's between the son Peter and his father William Reich, who was a psychiatrist and a philosopher.
Hmm.
Um, and this whole idea that William Reich had of um, developing a machine called a cloudbuster that you could point to the sky and make things rain. Um, and so Kate took a lot of inspiration from that and just building this whole song world around it about the relationship of the father and the son, about the fact that they were doing stuff that they probably ought not to mess with, and how people wouldn't like it very much. Um, these are themes that sidebar that Kate explores even more deeply in a song called Experiment 4, which
Yes.
was which was released on the whole story, which is
Yes.
basically about people working for the government to turn sound into a weapon. and
Yeah.
um, and it's a much darker song than Cloud Busting, because Cloud Busting, despite its lyrical content and sort of the tragedy of the story and the separation of the father and the son, has these lilting fairlight strings in it, dun 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 dun, just
Yeah.
kind of driving the whole tune
Mhm.
throughout, and it's made a much livelier affair because of that. But again, it just kind of that same dun 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 is also not far removed from like the string use in Psycho, where it's the
Uh-oh.
strings are a lot more
Hmm.
jarring, but it's that still dun dun dun,
Yeah.
and even Jaws dun 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 dun. I mean, it's a motif that works for a reason.
Yeah. And we don't mean to compare Kate Bush to Bruce the Shark from Jaws. Believe me, we don't.
No,
I mean, I see what you're going. Yeah, I see what you're getting at. I understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what uh, closes side one is Cloud Busting. Again, the of the four songs there, Running Up That Hill, Hounds of Love, The Big Sky, Mother Stands for Comfort, Cloud Busting. Only Mother Stands for Comfort was not a single. The other were singles. They had videos done with them, and basically between 85 to about, I don't know, February or March of 86, Kate Bush was all over the charts.
Oh yes.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, she came all over the charts again once Peter Gabriel released So. And,
But
all of a
don't give up.
sudden, this is a whole nother story that you can go down, is just the effect of hearing Don't Give Up for the first time, and Kate's angelic, otherworldly, comforting voice,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, oh, what a talent.
No, yeah, I mean, this is another artist. Kate Bush is another artist that for me defies description.
Hmm.
Um, she's an artist in terms of trying to pigeonhole her into a certain genre. You can try, but
Yeah,
it really doesn't fit because she's doing whatever she wants to do at any given time, right? Within
right.
her body of work. Um, Nobody expected her to come out as doing the duet with Peter Gabriel. Let's go down that avenue just for a minute, uh,
Sure.
if we can. Usually our tangents go quite long, which
They
I
do.
do love, by the way. But yeah, nobody expected Don't Give Up. and the immediate impact and how it exploded in terms of popularity. Again, that was just another facet of her personality in terms of her being able to deliver a passionate vocal performance
Yeah,
as a guest vocalist, not even as a lead vocalist,
right.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, going back to college days, which is where a lot of my strongest musical memories live, the bunch of us dorm guys, we went to Tower Records and bought brought it back, slapped it on the turntable, Red Rain, holy crap, Sledgehammer, everyone knew, really groovy. And then, you get into Don't Give Up, and no one knew what to expect unless you looked in the credits earlier and saw Kate Bush's name. But
Yeah.
once Kate vocals hit, every guy in the room was just like, and just melting in their chair because Kate just, had that look and that voice and just hit that sweet spot for at least, every San Francisco Bay Area male between the age of 19 and 22.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she has a type of delivery in her voice that is just flawless, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, I mean, again, getting back to the ninth wave with the Hounds
Yes,
of
let's turn
Love.
the album over and listen to the Ninth
Yes,
Wave.
yes. You have
So
seven tracks here that are considered a suite, but not in the traditional Pink Floyd or Yes sense, where I mean
right,
it's all one piece that's like 20 minutes. Here you have um, seven tracks that are just so different from one another that
right.
you
They run about 2.5 minutes to I think about six.
yeah,
So it runs the gamut there.
yeah, you go from 2.5 to I think 6 minutes and 9 seconds on Jig of Life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
yeah.
the notes I have here about the Ninth Wave, and again, this is recorded, as consulted by the giant encyclopedia in the sky. Um, the
Yeah, I get
it
it.
talks about the Ninth Wave. Yeah, it talks about the Ninth Wave in a similar style to like Alfred Lord Tennyson and his Arthurian poems, where you know this whole track is about Kate almost pursuing a vision quest, taking a listener through, life, death, and rebirth. Again, the quotes here: "The warmth of familiar sleep is cut by dangerous speed, ice, and frigid water. An
Yes.
otherworldly trial and judgment, an out of body limbo, and finally a vigorous emergence and grounding in life energy." So, just
Yeah.
looking at that on its own as a bit of text, you're like, what? How in the world will that, live as a song? And you think about it a little bit and say, well, gee, some Yes songs kind of sound like that. But, again, brush that aside. There ain't nothing that sounded like the Ninth Wave out there. The impact, the sonics, the shocking, jarring musical passages that it takes you through. Um, Everything from these kind of hiccupy, Fairlight sample vocals of someone just going through a panic while they feel like they're on trial by Satan, and to just this very somber ghost-like state of her picturing herself. I'm assuming the protagonist is a woman, just because it's Kate singing, we'll just have that voice. You
Okay.
know, she, she's kind of imagining watching home life go on without her, and her
Yeah.
desperately trying to reach out to say, it's me. I'm here. Um, from that just sort of ethereal track that's kind of propelled forward only by this tick tock sound that's in the background that just sounds like, clock hands. And with the song called "It's Watching You Without Me,"
Yes.
and again, so the tick tock watch, I mean, it all kind of works together.
Mhm.
From there, you go into the Jig of Life, which is, a frickin' Irish reel. with,
Yeah,
um, with all the traditional instruments broken in by Kate saying, "I put this moment here." And it's like, what the heck does that mean? But
I
again, it's
know.
just,
I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like,
I think it's just
and
more of the psych near psychotic nature that the narrator is going through of
yeah,
trying to like hold and piece together her life before it just
bec
falls away from her.
yeah, and she repeats that at least maybe two more times. And every time
Right.
she repeats that line, I put this moment here. Like she's enunciating it more forcefully, like even more to say, this is what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you. You
Right.
have to listen to like, yeah,
But then there's another voice that comes along and says, "Over here." And it again kind of shows that she's kind of spiraling out of control
yeah,
and doesn't have the ability to kind of keep it together.
yeah.
And once the jig ends, then you get utterly cosmic. It
Hmm.
the closest experience I can relate this to is something like 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Yeah, I can
where
see
it's
that.
like all of a sudden, this person has become the star child in 2001,
Hmm.
and in the ninth wave, the narrator has just had like such a out of body near death experience that she's now envisioning herself as basically, one with the universe. And this glorious way of describing the earth that she sees from, the
Overhead.
galaxy out there.
Yeah,
And again, with these kind of near Gregorian chant vocals that come in,
yeah.
again, just this overwhelming sense of like dread that has come up from like the depths of time,
Hmm.
and just holding her, fast to where she's at. And then, the final little bit of the track, "Go to sleep, little Earth," and then all of a sudden, bang, she's rescued. It's like through no action of her own,
Hmm.
our narrator is saved. And through, the morning fog, she's able to reconnect to, the life and people around her. Um, and it's, there's a very unprog element of them where it's like, I tell my brother, I tell, my mother, I tell my lover, how much I love them. I mean, that's how the album concludes.
Hmm.
Is this just deep longing thing about, here's how much she's expressing her joy and relief to be back with them, and
Hmm.
just expressing how much gratitude and love she has for them. I mean, that ain't classical prog rock by any stretch of the
No.
imagination, but
Mm.
you know, it doesn't fit normal musical norms. I mean, just the way it's all. I mean, sure, she says I love them, but it's not an I love you song. It's not saccharine. It's like truly deep, longing and an expression.
Yeah. No, I completely get that. I completely get that. To me, what she's saying is if you have the opportunity to express said feelings to whoever is around you or in your life, do it.
Hmm.
Because you never know when you're not going to be able to anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's what I'm taking from it, right?
Hmm.
That's my interpretation. Um, that's what I'm taking from what I'm hearing. It is just a beautiful piece of art on CD. I am sorry. This is art. This is not just mu music. It is art.
Oh,
Uh,
it's an absolute experience, and I
yeah,
think that's, going back to that car ride that I had with my son, is that that's what I'm guessing that he would say, is that this just goes beyond great songs. It is definitely an experience that you're being drawn into,
yeah.
this whole world of someone, um, just, from the brink of depth to the joy of life.
Hmm.
It,
No,
it, it's an incredible thing.
I agree with you. And do you remember when I said on the Tears for Fears episode how they were able to marry catchy pop songs with an album experience?
Yes.
This is another one.
Yeah.
This album is another example of the marriage of the two uh of the of the two paths to go down, and it does it so well. It
Yeah.
really,
Certainly side A does.
yeah. No, but I mean, for me, I mean, as an overall piece of music, as an album, I think because you have
Yeah.
the the pop sensibility with a bit of a twist on side one, because let's face it, she's not your conventional. Kate Bush is not your conventional pop artist, okay?
This is true.
But then on side two, you're off on this journey of reflection, of interest, I guess you call it introspection, introspective uh, searching, fear, horror, and death and rebirth. I mean,
Yeah.
of the spirit. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I find it fantastic. I think it's a fantastic album, and it was very unique when it came
Absolutely.
out. When it came out.
And I'm gonna guess that
Yes.
the piece, the ninth wave as a piece, meant a lot to Kate, and she had a lot kind of writing on it. Not writing on it. She was thinking of it in broader terms than an album could hold. And the reason that I suspect that is that the ninth wave was the centerpiece of her Soul Return to Live performance, which was her 2014 residency at the Hammersmith Odeon in London.
Mhm.
So talk about that a little bit. So except for Hounds of Love, um, sorry, I always keep calling it that. Except for Running Up That Hill, none of the songs from Hounds of Love had been performed live. But yet, when the Before the Dawn residency was announced,
Mhm.
and you had the announcement that was accompanied by the graphic was a scene of her. You're looking down upon her, and she's in water. Her arms are spread out. She has an orange life vest around her.
Mhm.
And given the words Before the Dawn and the visual that you got there, I think everyone and their brother knew, oh my God, Kate is going to stage the ninth wave. And
Okay.
that is exactly what she did. So the centerpiece of the show um, is a performance of the ninth wave that's it's
Mhm.
extended. They've got like little theatrical bits that go in here and there, almost little stage asides, especially in um, Watching You Without Me. There's more of a sense of like the scene of what the 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 husband and the child are kind of doing at home,
Yeah.
waiting to find out what has happened to their mother, spouse,
Mhm.
whatever character you're played there.
Yeah.
And but musically, it's it hits all the pockets. It is not a knockoff of the ninth wave. All of the elements that made it unbelievable as just an audio experience, you
Mhm.
get the audio, you know, with the stage visuals as well. Now, I I was uh, I was in London when Kate was doing her Before the Dawn residency, and I deeply regret that I was not able to go. The day, so me and my family, we arrived in London in the afternoon, and the next day's papers were filled with reviews of the Before the Dawn show, which debuted that day that we arrived.
Oh
And
my goodness.
she
Okay.
was on the front page of all the London papers, and every reviewer was just ecstatic about this mix of music, theater, dance, puppetry, film. I mean, it was a complete experience in how it's just described. Now, they filmed 4 shows. They filmed 2 entire performances where there was no audience whatsoever. And then they filmed another 2 shows with the room full. and full attendance, like a proper concert film.
Okay.
Um, and Kate's just sitting on the footage. I don't know why she doesn't feel like it's up to snuff.
It hasn't been really okay.
But yes, I'm trying to tell you that
No, no, I get okay.
Kate is sitting on the the treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Okay. I'm gonna interject something here. I have that album. I have Before the Dawn. I have the triple CD version, not the
Yep,
double CD, because when I heard there was a triple CD, I looked for it and I found it and I jumped on that SOB and I have it. I as is as what's been customary with me, I have every intention of listening to product that comes into the house when I buy it. What happens is I get busy doing other things and I move on and uh as they say in life, shit happens.
it
And
goes in the stack.
goes in the stack. I know exactly where that package is. I'm going to pull that out and listen to it from start to finish because yes, it needs to be listened to in its entirety.
Yeah,
It does.
I also have that set,
Mm,
and and I think it came out like near Christmas time, so
mhm.
got it at Christmas, and my first time to actually listen to it was in the car, and I was driving to work, and I arrived at work, and the second track of the performance is the song "Hounds of Love," and I don't know what it is about music. I don't know what it is about my connection to music, but I instantly started like almost heaving, crying with joy here. And it's, I'm like half embarrassed to talk about it, but it's true.
I
There's
cry all
such
the
a
time.
deep, there's such a deep emotional connection that I have with this album that just hearing something from that, live was just enough to sort of, you know, get me all super verklempt.
It it connected with you.
Yes.
It connected with you on a deeper level. I
Yeah.
cry all the time, especially when I look at my Visa bill. But I mean, that's another issue on its own.
Hey,
No, seriously. I get where you're coming from. I get where you're
yeah.
coming from. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Kate Bush is a one of a kind, and she's a true entity and an enigma.
Hmm.
And she likes to keep it that way. She
Yeah.
has said that she does not like talking to a lot of people in terms of doing press about herself. She'd rather let the music speak for herself, speak
Sure.
for itself. Sorry.
And I made this joke earlier about, yes, she should have been given the CBE just for knocking Madonna off the number one spot of the charts.
Mhm.
But she actually was given in, I believe in 2013, um, the Commander of the Order of the British Empire, which is uh,
Yes.
an award that's bestowed. It's a British order of chivalry rewarding contributions to the arts and sciences, um, and work with charitable organizations and public service outside of the civil service. So it's something that's given, bestowed upon you by, I don't know if it's, someone correct me on this. I don't know if it's from Parliament or if it's from royalty, from Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
But yes, Kate is officially, you know,
Yeah. No, no, no.
Kate Bush, CBE. Yeah,
Yeah, no, yeah. And anyone watching, please correct us in the comments. Let us know what exactly the significance of this award is and, who bestows this award.
yeah,
There's not, I mean, in terms of artistry, this album is perfect. I'm sorry. That word has been bantered around quite a lot lately, but
yes, by us.
yes, by us. Didn't want to say that, but it's true. This album is an adventure, and the older I get, in terms of discovering artists that I've known for years, but just have recently gotten into. I am very happy that I've gotten into Kate Bush. I really like her stuff. I really think she is a unique individual with a really fantastic message to deliver to people. And this album, Hounds of Love, is quite simply sublime. It is really good. Uh,
Yep.
Um, I mean, and guys, I'm going to say this very carefully, not to upset anybody. No, we talked about, not, about Taylor Swift, okay? Jokingly. And people have said to me, I've heard said to me, not said to me, but I've heard people say, all this news coverage about Taylor Swift. Okay, I've heard people say that she's a writer of her own narrative. She's in command of her own life. She's doing what she wants to do. You want to talk about somebody who is the writer of her own narrative? Look at this album.
Yeah.
Look at this album and look at this artist. She is the writer of her own narrative. Just like Joni Mitchell is, just like Tracy Chapman is, just like Melissa Etheridge is, on different levels, but these women are doing the exact same thing that Taylor Swift is being praised for doing. Okay?
Right.
I'm just saying there has to be a bit of a balance. And Kate Bush, I'm going to flash this again. You really need to listen to this album because it is beautiful. It really
Mhm.
truly is. Okay? So, um, in terms of this album, would you just in closing, I guess you could say in closing, would you say that she's matched this album in terms of her musical output after this? Because I mean, she could have walked away from, you see, because with Kate Bush, she'll release an album, and depending on how good it does, she'll basically back kind of like retreat into herself for a few years and then come back, like say 2 or 3 years later with something more.
Right.
Do you think that she has surpassed this in terms of
No.
no, okay.
I think on every level, this is Kate's crowning achievement. Um, and the only other female artist that comes to mind and kind of talking about, achievements and grand statements, um, Joni Mitchell comes to mind. But even with Joni, you have something as incredibly deep as as her album Blue from 1971, and
Hmm.
you think, oh, she'll never top that. But then in 1976, here comes Hajira and says, okay, Blue, hold my beer. And it's just, again, this monster of an album. So I think Kate is at a point in her career, um, given how long she's been in the music industry. She started in 1978. It's 2024 as we're recording this. I just don't, I would be shocked if she had everything still inside of her to produce something that would top Hounds of Love. And that's, it's not a knock on Kate. Um, she's born in 1958, so, she's in her upper 60s now. I just think her I just think her creative abilities aren't what they were then. And that just happens with everyone. There's very, very few musical artists who can do in their 60s what they were doing in their before they were 30.
Okay. Okay.
Every once in a while, like David Bowie with Black Star, okay. Peter Gabriel with IO, okay. Johnny Cash, the Rick Rubin recordings, the American 3-4, those are, especially the Johnny Cash stuff, is definitely an exception to the rule. But that's because he was paired with another individual who could really help mine and craft Johnny to deliver something that he probably couldn't have done on his own. So
Yeah.
it's possible that Kate may allow herself to partner with someone who can bring these kind of still waters bubbling back to life, if you will, but I highly doubt it. And you know, Sensual World, The Red Shoes, um, Ariel, 50 Words for Snow. I mean, they're all good albums, but they're not Hounds of Love good.
Okay. Okay.
Harumph.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, I do believe that I've said this before. I do believe that if you're an artist that has a large enough discography, that you'll have an album that is considered a critical success, and you'll have an album that is considered a commercial success. And, and rarely ever the two shall meet. I do think that Kate Bush with Hounds of Love, um, with this album here, I think she's managed to marry the two,
Yes.
just like Tears for Fears did. I'm sorry, it's kind
In
of
in the
sad.
same year.
It's
Yeah,
kind
I mean,
and
don't apologize. There are these things that are both, critical and, commercial successes. And certainly
yeah,
85 was blessed with them to have both Songs from the Big Chair and um, Hounds of Love. And the next
yes,
year after that, So is another one that steps into that batter's box and it's like, bam, another grand slam.
yeah, yeah. Um, no, I just think that she hit her stride with Hounds of Love. Um, has she, in my opinion, has she topped it? No, I don't even think she was trying to. I really don't think she was trying to. I
Hmm.
think for her, every album is a musical statement. She's admitted too that she doesn't think that this was back in '93 when she released the Red Shoes. Because I was watching like a documentary on her this morning. She felt at that point that she hasn't mastered it yet, that she hasn't done everything perfect yet, that she's most critical on herself.
Hmm.
That she feels that once you become happy with everything you do, then you become complacent,
Hmm.
you know. Um, and then she says, then where is there to go after that?
Yeah.
How do you continue if if you release an album and say, okay, this is it. This is this is perfection. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. Where do you go? Well, you retire.
Right.
If you can't do any more. So,
Exactly.
um, but yeah, I just think
So,
that this album is perfect. I hate
so,
perfect.
I'll throw one other comment out there. So
Go for
the
it.
closest that Kate has ever come to try to repeat um, the Hounds of Love would be with her 2005 release Ariel, which is a
Yes.
double album where the first disc is, you know, unrelated but similarly themed songs, which has kind of a sweet subtitle called A Sea of Honey.
Yes.
Disc two, which has its thematic subtitle as, sorry, losing it here, called A Sky of Honey. It's a continuous piece of music describing the experience of 24 hours passing by. Now,
Okay.
it's it's very much pastoral. It's very much relaxed. It's very much about, modern. It's kind of got a modern grounding to it. Whereas Hounds of Love and the Ninth Wave are kind of driven by, Arthurian legends and, Alfred Lloyd Tennyson and various storytelling conceits that are,
Mhm. Yeah,
mystical and spiritual and, dreamlike. I guess you can make an argument there are portions of Ariel that are dreamlike as well, but I would say that if there's anything that kind of came close to trying to replicate what was done with Hounds of Love, Ariel is about the only one that would fit that.
I was
It
gonna
was,
say, because when I remember when Ariel came out, there was so much hype
mhm,
over Ariel coming out. It's her first album in like 12 years, and it's a double album, and it's Kate Bush, and she's back, ladies and gentlemen. And
mhm,
I don't believe, I mean, it's a good album, but I don't believe that it had the same impact as Hounds of Love did,
right,
for example,
yeah,
or even the Red Shoes. I mean, I like the Red Shoes, you know,
mhm.
as an album, which is, I don't know if that's sad or if it's just indifferent. I think that artists are very lucky, maybe just to have one album that really makes an impact
Absolutely.
in their catalog. And to wish for them to have two, it's like, okay, now you're kicking the can a little bit too much here. Like you're going to the well a little bit too much, and you're hoping against all hope, right? Like you're batting a
Yeah,
thousand here, kind of thing. So yeah, I think that I don't know. I think yeah, no, I think for me, Hounds of Love, she hit her stride and maybe and her pinnacle, and I don't think she's been able to top what she did with Hounds of Love.
I would agree.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for joining us on this twist and turn of a conversation in terms of Kate Bush and talking about Hounds of Love. Guys, if you haven't heard Hounds of Love, what are you waiting for? Literally, like,
Do it.
please invest the time. It is a beautiful piece of art on CD or vinyl if you're lucky to get the have the vinyl version. You know, again, music for me has always been about learning and new experiences. And this for me was quite the eye-opening experience. So hopefully, if you haven't heard Hounds of Love yet from Kate Bush, please check it out on YouTube or get yourself a copy if you like it after listening to it and enter the world of Kate Bush via Hounds of
Yeah.
Love. You know,
It is a journey well worth taking.
yes, yes. I want to thank Jim Bricker for joining me on this album discussion episode of Kate Bush and Hounds of Love. And we will be back soon with more episodes, I promise. We have a couple of ideas kicking around in the can. We just have to formulate the ideas and bring them to you. That's it. So for Jim Bricker, I am Armando Venditti signing off for now. Please look after yourselves and one another. Please click like and subscribe, and again, hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I've got coming up. We will see Jim very soon on upcoming episodes. So please look after yourselves. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.